There's a question here about the hierarchies that lead the instruction work and the work of propagation of teaching here in Figueira. The mantras play a very important part here in instruction. Before these mantras of Figueira were manifested, before we came to know them, because they were captured, we used some mantras of X. After the mantras of Figueira arrived, we are then in the full phase of instruction. We understand instruction as an impulse of our inner world. It's an impulse that comes from inside, that dynamizes our potential, what we have in there, very much in the essence, and it brings to our consciousness. So seeing instruction like this, the mantras are instructors of ours. The mantras are a process that we have to be instructed, because the mantras try to move our inner world. The mantras are like an invocation, so this is an instrument of instruction. Now, when this emerges, one of the first things that it does is to grant us the capacity, the possibility of having a greater control upon the bodies, because if the bodies are not controlled, we cannot receive instruction. We cannot receive that which comes from inside, because it has no way to go through. There are no channels available to go through. So the work of the mantras in instruction initially is the one of helping us in self-control, in alignment, in this process of being calm, peaceful, so that we can receive this that comes from inside. The mantra itself is not the instruction. It's not what the mantra says, because we don't even know what the mantra says. This is a rhythm, a sound, or that is a sound pronounced in a certain rhythm. This rhythm is received through intuition in the time of the work, so we could pronounce it in a rhythm now and soon pronounce it in a different rhythm. This rhythm is determined by the need, and intuitively this rhythm is applied to the mantra. So that places us in a state of calm, of alignment. The mantra does that. So aligned, concentrated, and calm, we are channels in potential of this that comes from inside. And what comes from inside is the instruction. For us to receive this instruction, besides having our bodies controlled and aligned, we would have to be, as a personality, we would have to be serene, calm, before the things that we do not understand. This is essential to begin receiving instruction, to begin being instructed inside. Because if we don't have calm, serenity, before that which is incomprehensible, before that which is unknown, before that which has never been presented to us, we don't have the necessary attitude to receive instruction, the internal instruction. So we are driven by external instruction. We are driven by books, rules, science. That is everything that comes from outside. Because everything that comes from outside is always coated with an air of something that is unknown. What comes from outside is approved for other people. It's simpler for us to accept, because it's more molded with our mentality, by the mind of others. So external instruction can be received at any state. You just have to want it and look for it. Internal instruction is related to things that you don't know, that you have never seen, that you have never done. So it is something unknown. And if you are not at peace with that which is unknown, with that which is incomprehensible to the mind, this instruction has no way to emerge. It's not attracted. It is attracted not only for our devotion and our willingness to learn. It's also attracted by this serenity of ours before that which comes and will be completely new and will be nothing at all like that which we already know. And when this instruction begins to come, when this begins to emerge, and these are not theories, they are not concepts, it's a change of state within us, it's an encounter with truth in us, with that which is real within us. They are states, they are changes in our mind, changes in our feelings, changes even in our vibration. They are transformations. So we pass from one state to another, one moment to another, with serenity, and thus we gradually learn. Learn what? You learn to see things in a different way. Where you used to see one thing, after this openness, you see something different. And the same thing, this gives you other openness. It transmits to you different energies, so you learn to be before things in a way that is always renewed, things always being new. And when this process of instruction begins, on one hand, we feel at those moments we feel very filled, as if we lacked nothing at that moment. Everything that we need at that moment, we have that as instruction. On one hand. On the other hand, while this makes us filled in this way, united, at the same time, it suggests to us how infinite this knowledge is. So, before instruction, you know what you need to know at that moment, but at the same time, you know that you still do not know anything. So in this way, instruction teaches us about humility. Those who are instructed within are not proud. We are proud when we have the illusion that we know a lot, because we have learned from inside out, so we have the illusion that we have been instructed. But when we are truly instructed, we become very humble. And the more we are instructed, the more we see that we need to be instructed. But this is not insatisfaction. This is a very real experience which does not include insatisfaction. Through instruction, we know that we know nothing, but we are not insatisfied. We are not feeling that we lack anything. That is, instruction places us on a real level where you have what you are supposed to have, where you know that you don't have anything, where you know that you still have everything to have, and all of this in the greatest balance, the greatest calmness. The instruction hierarchy works with us on different levels. So there is a sort of instruction that is given here on our material mental levels and on our intuitive levels. This is the instruction that we know. That is, it's an instruction that comes from the higher being, from the soul, that is the intuitive level or our mental world. So there are instruction hierarchies who work on this level, and these are the hierarchies who are closest to our material consciousness. And this instruction that we receive from this sort of hierarchy, this hierarchy that works on our intuition and our higher mind, this sort of hierarchy or this sort of instruction helps us or stimulates us in the maturing of our soul. This is the instruction that is transmitted to us for the soul to mature, for the soul to expand, and for the soul to make contact with ever more profound nuclei. Because then, if our soul begins to grow and become aligned with more profound levels, we enter into contact with other hierarchies of instruction, which are no longer the same. And these other hierarchies of instruction begin to work on our spiritual level, our being, on the level of body of light. So while the first hierarchy works with the growth of our soul, in reality, they are preparing us for us to recognize ourselves as a group of souls, because there the instruction increases, the instruction becomes more intensive and more groupal. This hierarchy works on us in the sense of our beginning to recognize our internal group, to begin to have the perception of those who are with us on the inner worlds and who form groups with us. We have tasks, we have an evolution, we have a path to follow as groups of souls. There, these souls mature, and then they begin to have an alignment with more profound nuclei. And there, other hierarchies enter, who we cannot find consciously, but who work very internally to prepare us to find an inner path, an extraplanetary development in inner schools. This is another hierarchy. So the work of instruction is entirely done internally, and out here we have elements, we have stimuli, we have pieces of information in the sense of aligning ourselves, of seeking these things inside, in the sense of connecting ourselves, in the sense of self-controlling ourselves, so that the external vehicles may participate in all of this. But while we receive these pieces of information out here, for us to be self-controlled, for us to align, for us to concentrate, while we receive all of this out here, this is not instruction. These are pieces of information to put us in conditions. The instruction comes when this is already organized, when the inner being, that which is inside, begins to manifest itself, and it reaches the consciousness. Internal things could happen, abstract movements of our inner nuclei. Our inner nuclei could develop, and in a certain way, this could reach our conscious level. And then there are hierarchies of instruction who are even more advanced. And we don't have many news from them, from the work that they do, because they are galactic hierarchies who transcend the solar system and cause us, on a very profound level, for us to be learning in contact with nuclei of the galaxy where we are. So all this work of instruction, this trajectory of instruction, begins with our external alignment. It begins with our discipline, with our self-control. This is what we have to do consciously, because true instruction, internal instruction, real instruction, emerges, comes, happens when this is in course. So consciously we place ourselves as aligned beings who are seeking this instruction. This is what is done consciously. The true work of instruction is a work that does not depend on this process of alignment of ours, this process of self-control of ours. Instruction comes as this happens. and how to do the diffusion, the propagation of knowledge, of teaching. There is a diffusion, a propagation of teaching that is internal. It's a contact, a radiation from soul to soul. Now, the diffusion of teaching in the external part, there must be a source of information that is authorized so that we can get the information there and eventually in a form of words or concrete transmission, transmit it to others. But this source has to be indicated, or it has to be in contact with our internal source. Otherwise, what we transmit as information doesn't have the strength of truth to others. It seems like artificial information. So the source of information must be a source that is harmonized and it is in contact with our inner source. That is, we can only diffuse in teaching if we are receiving the same teaching internally, if we are in contact with the teaching, because to diffuse a teaching which is not a reality for us, that does not exist within us, this is artificial, and to others it won't sound as a reality. So for you to be a channel for a teaching to be propagated or diffused, it's necessary for you to be a devote of this teaching. It's necessary for you to be in contact with this teaching, or for this to be happening in you in some way, even if it's unconsciously. The more the instruction happens and the more the instruction comes closer and grows in us, the more we feel an impulse to be that which we are. The more we feel that our being is happening, that our being is emerging, that our being is doing. And we don't have the wish to know things. We don't have curiosity to know anything. Curiosity to know something. This is a process of the mind. This is an external instruction that we are receiving. Internal instruction heals us of this need of knowing things. Internal instruction heals us of this curiosity, legitimate curiosity to the mind, to the personality. But it's not related to inner instruction. If we are instructed internally, we are aspiring for being. We are seeking to be that which we are. Because if we are seeking to know something, there is a difference here. If we are trying to know something, so what is happening is not inner instruction. What is happening are mental resettling, mental lucubrations, or mental synthesis, which are important for us at certain moments. But this instruction doesn't bring any question. It doesn't bring any questioning. This instruction brings a contact of our reality of being. So much so that we learn when we enter this process of alignment to be before instruction, we go through many trials, we go through many moments. At the beginning, before we become quiet, we ask a question. We ask something, and a certain answer comes. But this answer, when it comes, when we ask the question, this is an answer that comes filtered by our minds. Because true instruction, which is the true answer, does not come because you asked something. It comes because you were totally quiet, and then it can come. So true instruction is not an answer to any question. This is the experience of those who receive instruction. True instruction is not an answer to any question you have asked, because all questions come from the mind. All the questions come from the personality. All questions come from the ego. beyond this mind, beyond this part of the being that asks questions. There is a level of our being that is available, receptive and open. It's not asking anything. It's simply open. This is when instruction comes down. And the instruction that comes down is not any question that you have asked. The instruction that comes is something that is completely new, different to anything you would have thought, in such a way that is very good, useful, and practical to ask questions in words, because this can instruct you a lot. This can help you very much in certain stages. This can bring you even concrete and practical answers. And it's good for us to go through this, because then we become sure that this internal source exists. But those who have this possibility of having questions, answers, whether through dreams, listening, vision, a book you open to read and you find the answer, all of this is very important, but this is at stage. All of this that you are receiving through these ways, it's not pure instruction. Even if you receive a response, a voice that answers you, even if you have a vision that is the answer, whatever comes as an answer which is very legitimate, this is very important and we have to be very grateful. But nothing of this is true instruction. True instruction is the one that comes when you didn't ask anything, you didn't have anything to know, you didn't want anything, you were just open, available. You were there entire. This is when instruction begins. So here, these are different hierarchies. The one that sends you responses, books, stimulates your mind, or even inside of your mind to create a voice to speak to you, because all of this takes place in the mind. So this that creates in your mind, even images that you need to see, this that creates in your mind, even encounters with beings of the hierarchies, all of this is an impulse of a certain hierarchy on your mind. All of these are mental things. Now, true instruction is beyond all of this. The hierarchies of instruction are giving you internal stimulus. And you must be open, you must be available, calm, peaceful, without any questioning. So this will be the experience of instruction, the first experience of instruction. And then we have the possibility of seeing the difference between the instruction that we used to receive before, which were answers to our questions, and the instruction that we are receiving now, which are things that we have never asked, because we did not even know they existed. The difference is that those answers that the instruction gives us because we ask helps us to take many steps. And it is through this knowledge that we are going to gradually evolve. When the time of true instruction comes, when this comes down without you having asked anything or seeking anything, which is the true process, when this happens, this is much more than taking a step. This changes your state. You enter a different state of consciousness. And in this way, from state to state, you are gradually instructed and you gradually enter different levels of consciousness. And there are the hierarchies who work with this and who are in contact with us, but a very internal, profound contact. So, on the level that we work in the practice that is of need having certain indications to walk properly, we need to have all of this as a stage. But we should not be conditioned to this stage, to these mechanisms. So even if we are using these mechanisms as we are, because who doesn't ask questions in words here? This is a stage which we must not be attached to, because there is a time, a period to be in this stage, a cycle to be in this stage. Beyond a cycle, the inner being is now asking for something else. It's asking for silence. The inner being is asking for faith, serenity, so that that which we have to receive may come, which we don't even imagine what it is. So therefore, we must ask no question because we don't know what it is about. And this is what our inner being wants to send us. Our inner being, when evolved, is not interested in teaching us to walk here on earth. The inner beings, the profound nuclei are not there for this. The profound nuclei wants us to change of state, of levels of consciousness. Of course, these hierarchies respond to our questions because they are questions that our personality needs to have an answer to. Our mind needs to resolve. So these hierarchies respond. But this has a time. This is a cycle. So later on, no hierarchy of instruction will condition us to a situation like this, of seeking in the heights a solution you must give here, because from the heights you receive other things from the heights. From the heights you receive sublime consciousness. And this is what the instruction is here for. So at this stage of ours, we should be doing the best possible in life, but this should be considered to be a game, nothing else but a game. Because if this is considered a little bit more of a game of forces, of energies, of facts, which must happen in the most harmonious way, in a as harmonious way as possible, but if it's not considered to be a game, the forces of instruction, the channel of instruction is obstructed and things begin to be confused. We have a great amount of questions or scope of questions that our mind need to have resolved. So we give a response to the mind. We give to the mind what it is asking until it becomes calm. And then right away it has another question because the mind doesn't stop. So you are going to see that you answer something to the mind and soon it will have something else to ask. And a moment comes when the mind asks certain questions that you will no longer find answers to. And you won't find an external. Anywhere that is external, you will find an answer for this question of the mind. So the mind brings things that don't have an answer to, because this is how this mental instruction will end up. So a moment comes when there is no answer for what the mind is proposing. You won't find it anywhere, neither in your own mind nor in other people's minds. Then the moment has really come to open yourself to instruction, to be quiet, peaceful, to be silent, waiting for this instruction to begin to happen, for this instruction to be developed. So no one reaches instruction through the mind. The mind has questions one after another. And when you reach those questions that don't have any answer for, then the mind has no other alternative but surrender. And then a different process begins to it. From curious, it will become a mirror, a peaceful lake where higher things will begin to be reflected upon. A person is asking about hierarchies, and as they saw that we had been working with the song Antuak, they are asking some questions about Mishuk, who is a being or an entity who already has an evolution no longer in the physical cosmic plane. When she presented herself as Saint Teresa of Avila, but today she has an evolution in the limits with the cosmic mental. As Saint Teresa, this being was on the higher levels of the cosmic physical plane, which is formed of 7 planes until the divine plane. And as Mishuk, this life or this entity is already on the level of the other 5 rays, whose evolution takes place beyond the divine plan. So this is an entity, a hierarchy that works today and serves today, perfecting the interrelationship among worlds, among the universes. And it is a hierarchy that is already omnipresent and transfigured, which has omniscience. So she's no longer Saint Teresa, it's something else now, today. As Saint Teresa, she is very much related to our evolution, because as Saint Teresa, she lived one of the last stages before reaching the total consciousness of herself. So as Saint Teresa, she was having certain initiations or developments that led her to be totally conscious of herself, which is the way that we would go through now. So the path that we are going through now of gradually becoming aware of ourselves is the path that Saint Teresa went through until she reached a union as perfect as possible on the inner planes, as a monad or as a soul. As the beings who are on this path of finding themselves, of coming to know themselves, or as she called it, to come to know God, to be with God, because she had this experience of being with God. This means that she reached the point we must reach. That is, she reached the identification with the inner God. She reached this union. When we reach this union, this internal union, from then on, we no longer need any experience. Evolution takes place on a different plane, in a different way. So the visions that Saint Teresa had, the whole process that she described, which are all stages that we still must live, all of these are the stages for us to reach this union. But when we are close to this union, we have no way to, we no longer have these manifestations, because the internal visions, inner listening, dreams, any sign that we may have, all of this is to reach this inner union. After this, there is no longer anything of this. The experience that Saint Teresa may have had at the end, I don't know if she described it, which is the experience that all of us would have to reach, is to perceive that at the end of the stage of visions, of intuition, the stage of dreams, even materializations that we may have, that we may receive and watch, at the end of the stage, the result is that we and God, we and that which that we were looking for is the same thing. We reach this union. So if Teresa spoke about God or about Christ, or if Teresa spoke of Jesus, it was because she was at the and the final stages of this union, but this union had not taken place yet. The moment when she unites with herself totally, then there is no longer God, Christ Jesus, nothing of this outside. Nothing of this speaks to us any longer, because everything is united, we are there. We have discovered that all of this are ourselves. So there is a difference between Saint Teresa and Michoud. It's not only an exchange of names. So Teresa was uniting with God, with Christ, with Jesus, and at the end of that trajectory, or at the final stages, this must have united. But we don't know on each plane this was united, or if it was in another incarnation. The fact is that Teresa spoke of God, Jesus, her whole life. So until she find that she was this, there was another path, another stage to go through. All these ways of understanding the path, all of this that we see, all of this that we learn, all of this that we unite is still a mental spiritual path. So all these revelations that we have, all of this that appears to us, all of this happens deeply within our mind. All of this is a manifestation of our mind as a response to our questioning, as a response to our search. But when we liberate ourselves from this point of the mind, where there is an initiation in the 12th ray, then from then on, there is no longer this of I and I and God, I and Jesus, I and the Christ, because this is merged together, so that the evolutionary path will be different, other stages, no longer stages in which we are here to the side and the divinity is out there. It's another stage. All of this has been united, carried out within our being. This has been carried out within our beings. So these are other stages. So this entity who is today in other stages must be helping us or accompanying us in this mental stage in which we are. And we are beginning these mental stages. We are beginning because we are still waiting, we are still seeking our union with the inner self. In the science of Michoud, you and your inner being is the same thing. You and God is the same thing. You and the cosmic Christ is the same thing. You and the race is the same thing. This is one only being. So we have one guide who is already in this development. So to have a guide that is already in this development is a reason for a lot of gratitude, because this is a hierarchy who is no longer guiding us in the practices of uniting with our higher being. This is up to us. She can't do this for us. If we don't think in God, if we are too much distracted, there is no way to go along this path. No hierarchy can do this for us. And we see it right away when a person is busy with God. Because when they are occupied with God, they don't have time to think about anyone or being in conflict with anyone, but only being God. In this attunement, you are in the aura of Michoud, in the aura of this hierarchy, and this is what this hierarchy does in here, besides leaving some roses and jasmine aromas, as she was doing a few minutes ago. But this path depends on us. That is, you have to be thinking about this union. You must be seeking this union. This must be your life. This must be your work. Then this hierarchy will be very much present. All this process of our being seeking of having answers, because we may have answers in different ways. I could be saying something here without not even know why, and I could be answering things from many people. So this is very unexpected as these answers come, as this happens. And all of this is like play to help our mind being concentrated. Concentrated on what? On that which is the goal. But the mind has to be concentrated. The mind has to be dedicated to this. And if the mind assumes this, you may be thinking of this and at the same time be developing all the other tasks with the collaboration of the mind, the same mind. Now, if the mind is in this, and if this is your goal, if this is your path, that is God and you and God, this is one thing, you and your higher being. And here each one is going to go through the different stages they have to ask. At some moments they will have to ask one thing or another. At some moments they will say they are present, others they won't be. They will be sometimes in crisis, sometimes laughing, sometimes crying. These are all problems of the mind, stages of the mind. These are the ways in which the mind faces reality. But we wouldn't have to lose or miss this background, this main thing, the central thing, which is this union itself. So I am seeking this union. I am collaborating so that this union may be conscious, and this must not be forgotten. This must not be put aside, no matter what happens. Even if you perceive that you are a demon, suddenly, you look at this and you don't give any importance to this and continue in union. You continue in the work of union. You see, Mishuk is this possibility for us as a group, because it is a thing, it is a life, or it is a being or an entity who has already carried out this, who is already in this union, experiencing this union within us. Because while being omnipresent, she is also present within us. This hierarchy is inside of us. She's living this inside of us. Or she's living this for us. Because as a being of mercy that she is, she's living this not for herself, but she's living this cosmic union for us, at our place, as if we were there. So it's necessary to have faith and firmness that this will not shake, that this does not need to be shaken or disturbed by our situations, that we still live. And someone asked yesterday who Count Saint Germain is. If this name of Count Saint Germain, we know about a character who physically appeared in Europe, more or less 1710 and 1822, approximately, because before 1710, this being was incarnated in other characters who are also historical. But as the Count Saint Germain, this being incarnated in Europe, incarnated is not very much the term, because no one knows if he was really incarnated. He had a body that would appear and disappear whenever necessary, so we prefer to say that Saint Germain was a character who appeared in Europe. And we don't, because no one knows his origin and how he ended up. No one knows the origin of this character. It has never been revealed. What he manifested as Saint Germain, we could see that he was an ascended master, an adept, That is, he was a being with many initiations. As an ascended master, as a being who had the consciousness of an adept in that incarnation, he tried to bring a balance to the world situation, not only on the inner plane, but also on the external plane. So much so that he carried out all his effort, he made all his effort to prevent the French Revolution, to prevent all that massacre to take place. He also manifested the energy of will and determination, and this is also historical, because in his determination of causing harmony and balance to prevail, he worked so that this would not happen until the eve when the thing was on the street already revealed. So it was a really impressive determination. So he also manifested a great way of dealing with the energy of transmutation. Internally, that is a plane which no one saw, therefore no one knew what he was doing. He stimulated the monads because the majority did not have their monads completely awake, or the monads had not yet reached a degree of development. And he radiated so that these monads would begin to find and perceive the return path to the immaterial planes. Today, this being or this energy is no longer expressed physically. He works exclusively on the internal planes. His work on the inner planes, from our standpoint, is to prepare the groups of monads, or one or another monad especially, for the return to immaterial evolution. And in this work, not manifested out here, he is known as Antuak, and Antuak tries to place us, to put us in contact as monads and souls with the immaterial laws, with the higher laws, and he works in our entry on the material path. So this Antuak has an origin in the constellation of Andromeda as a being or energy of Andromeda. He has the power of dealing with the elements that form the earth. So the four elements, the four earthly elements on all planes can be commanded by him. This is why in this time, in this cycle, he's available to rescue operation, because in the moments before the monadic work that is done of rescue of monads, the moments when supranature will begin to act upon the earth, this force, Antuak, will have control upon all the elements, both of the earth, as fire, as air. So in the rescue operation, he will have control over any situation of the sort on all planes. As a spiritual hierarchies, he works with cosmic energy And there is an and he's an extraplanetary hierarchy. That is, he doesn't work only with the Earth. He's a hierarchy who is connected with other worlds, and as a hierarchy, he works. He acts either through groups or in connection with entities, which can be in contact, also in contact with the Earth. As Andromeda, which is his homeland, and all the Milky Way are in a process of merging, fusion, this constellation and the Milky Way, in a certain sense, will merge together internally. The work of this hierarchy on a planet like this, or some other world, is always being carried out in meaning to integrate. So this is such broad hierarchical task that this Antuak that we know must be a small thread of this energy, this thing that is so broad. Here on this planet, this energy is the higher command of the intraterrestrial center, the planetary center of Mihnajad, which is a civilization, one of the most advanced civilizations of the planet on the supraphysical plane, and which projects on the surface, on the material levels of the planet. So this is why here in Figueira we consider Antuak to be a part of the hierarchy of Figueira, the command of the hierarchy of Figueira, because of the projection that it is of Mihnajad. This center of Mihnajad, Figueira, on its external part, intermediates the emissions and vibrations of all other planetary centers. It gathers this and processes this and radiates this to humanity. This was why, at the beginning of this work, one of the first things that were revealed, that were manifested, were the planetary centers, because we are dealing indirectly through Mihnajad with the energy of all of them, and with this radiation to humanity. Inner healing is one of the tasks, is one of the works of Mihnajad. But inner healing, on the scope of Mihnajad, in the inner work of this planetary center, is related to the souls and monads. However, this inner healing is also operated through incarnated beings, beings like us, who are carried on their subtle bodies to be harmonized in the state of consciousness. And as the energy of transmutation is very basic, and Mihnajad is one of the planetary works of Antuak, transmutation, the energies of transmutation are very developed in Mihnajad. And this transmutation used in the rescue operation, because for certain movements, certain transmigrations of beings on the subtle planes or the most internal planes, the transmutation is very necessary, because to move a being from one vibration to another, or from one world to another, where conditions are very different, this transmutation has to accompany the whole movement. All of this is at service, all of this is in function of a greater harmony and greater balance of all the earthly existence. So we see a coherence in all this story, in the smallest details, so that balance, that harmony that tried to be implanted in the past, today with the development of this work, the service, this is a harmony, a balance that is dedicated to all earthly existence, to the whole planet.